Very good to be with you today.
The question we need to answer is simple. Can a green card holder be removed from the United States? And the answer is yes. A permanent resident can lose status, but it is not automatic, and it has become easier to see those cases under the Trump administration. In this video, I am going to explain the most common reasons that happens, what the government looks for, and what you can do right now to protect yourself. Quick legal note before we get into it. This is general information only, not legal advice, and watching this video does not create an attorney-client relationship. A lot of resident alien green card holders are anxious these days because they have seen, in isolated cases, people losing permanent resident status. So let's dig into what is actually happening and talk through some practical steps you can take today. The first thing I would tell you is that the biggest reason I see people lose resident alien status is simply staying outside the country too long. If you have a green card, you will see that the card itself usually expires after 10 years, and in some cases after 2 years, depending on the situation. That expiration date is not a free pass to leave the United States for years at a time. It is a little like a passport in the sense that the card may be valid for 10 years, but the rules behind the status still apply. And with the green card, those hidden rules matter a lot. The law says that if a person stays outside the United States for 1 year and then tries to come back, that green card may no longer serve as proof of permanent resident status. Now, there are exceptions. You can sometimes get advance permission to remain outside the country longer, and if you have that, you are in a better position. But if you stay out for a year without advance permission and the issue is caught, you can lose your green card, and more than likely, you will lose your green card. At a minimum, you may be referred to an immigration judge, and the judge will decide whether you abandoned your residency. So, if there is one takeaway from this video, it is this. If you are a green card holder, do not stay outside the United States too long. Really, if you can avoid it, you should aim to stay out for less than 180 days. That means 179 days, not about 6 months. 6 months from now is usually 183 days, so if you are planning travel and you expect to be away for a long stretch, try very hard to stay under that 180-day mark. And before you even go down that road, you should be talking to an immigration attorney. There are also other situations where permanent residents lose their green cards because of past misconduct, misrepresentation, or a problem the government believes existed from the start. In other words, the government may think you were never truly entitled to permanent resident status in the first place. Let's go through those issues. What makes the government believe you were not entitled to resident alien status? In my experience, the biggest issue is fraud. If the government believes you committed fraud to obtain permanent resident status, it can try to revoke that status. And if the government has enough evidence, it will probably succeed in taking away your resident alien status and place you in removal proceedings. What does that kind of fraud look like? One example is document fraud. Maybe you submitted a document that was not what it claimed to be. That could be a fake marriage certificate, a fake divorce decree, or any other false document that was presented as real. Marriage fraud is another serious issue. If someone marries purely to obtain resident alien status, and the government later discovers that, it becomes a major problem, and the government can try to take that status away. Another issue is criminal history that was never fully disclosed to immigration. Failing to reveal legal problems, especially criminal issues, can create serious consequences later. And what is sad is that some people did not even hide something because it was actually disqualifying. They were simply afraid, or they were poorly advised. Yes, the government is strict on crime, and yes, certain crimes can lead to removal. But not every crime will lead to removal, and not every offense is automatically a bar. Even so, if you leave something out, the government may use that omission later to argue that your green card should be taken away. That is why these issues are so important. You need to approach the government with the mindset that everything should be disclosed correctly. But I would not even recommend doing that without first speaking with an immigration attorney, because you still need to understand the immigration consequences of certain acts or criminal violations. You really should be speaking with an immigration professional. The worst thing you can do is go to a forms filler, meaning a non-lawyer notario. Notarios are often very poor at spotting these issues. It is hard enough for attorneys to catch every possible problem, and we still have to be diligent. If someone without legal training is handling your case, the risk goes up even more. So let's review the main problems again. You did not disclose a criminal history or some other issue that could matter. You submitted a false document. You failed to tell immigration something relevant, like whether you had arms training or whether you belonged to an organization the government has designated as working against the interests of the United States. All of those things can affect your case. Now, where is all of this coming from under the Trump administration? I have seen it much more often in naturalization cases, meaning cases where people are trying to become U.S. citizens, than I have in green card cases. But I know it does happen with green cards too, where the government goes back and tries to take status away. And how are they finding these issues? In my view, the two biggest tools are your mouth and your phone. If you have sensitive immigration issues, do not go around talking loosely about how you got over on the government. You have the right to remain silent, and you do not have to volunteer details to everyone around you. What you do not have is the right to commit fraud. But you also do not need to incriminate yourself by casually discussing your own case with people who do not need to know. People who brag about their situation often create problems for themselves. They make enemies, and somebody can talk. So do not discuss your immigration history with just anybody. Talk only with an attorney, where attorney-client privilege applies. That privilege matters. The other issue is digital records. A colleague of mine joked on Facebook today about asking ChatGPT to roast you and not hold back. I have been using ChatGPT for about 2 years now, and it is amazing how much a system like that can know about you. So if you are building a digital footprint, you have to be very careful. The government has AI and other tools it can use to figure out what you have done. And right now, the government is very enthusiastic about using that technology. It is a little like getting a car when you were younger and suddenly realizing how much faster you can move than when you were walking or riding a bike. Technology gives people speed, and agencies are using that speed now too. They can compare application A to application B and look for contradictions. So it is extremely important to understand that the government may have access to a great deal of information. That can work in your favor, and it can work against you. But one good thing about that technology is that it reduces the temptation to lie. If you know the government can come back later and uncover something, you are less likely to tell a small lie that turns into a major problem. What matters is that you educate yourself and understand what is in your past so you can discuss it properly with a professional. So going forward, my advice is not to overthink this in the wrong way. If you believe you have issues in your past, do not go ask your neighbor down the street. Do not rely on random advice online. Go see a licensed immigration attorney who has attorney-client privilege and can tell you what really matters. Maybe the issue is not as bad as you fear. Maybe it is just an omission. Forgetting to include something is very different from intentionally hiding it. These are all facts that need to be examined carefully. And remember, Big Brother is not a theory anymore. The government is watching a lot more closely than it used to, so be careful. Make sure to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more immigration updates.